Hey, welcome to the Voice Den, everyone. Great to have everybody back here. This is the first one after the summer and thrilled to be back here with all of you. Hope you are all having a wonderful time and settled into September. Okay. Hey, Ray. Hello, Steve. Hey, everybody. As you know, we need to know who you are and where you are. So please put in there where you are listening from, where you're sitting. And if you're drinking something, as always, we want to know, what are you drinking right now in the Voice Den? Great to see some people. I see Jim said go Flyers. And boy, he's one of the Voicefluencers, so I can't be too mean. But when you're talking about go Flyers and you've got 3 Canadians on the show here and you're talking about hockey, I think that's an issue. Anyway, good evening from Texas, Melanie, Steve, New York, John. First time ever. Okay, along those lines, John, welcome. I want to give a huge welcome to all of you that are new to the Voice Den. My name is Teri Fisher, and I am in Vancouver, and I'm drinking some sparkling water. Canadian beer, says Ray. All right, there's another Canadian. Awesome. You will see down on the bottom of your screen, there is a poll that's about to come on up. And I want to know, what is your Voice Den status? Is it rookie or veteran? Have you been here before, or are you a newbie here? And we want to know, because there are actually quite a few names here that I do not recognize, which is absolutely wonderful. So wonderful to see so many new people here. So, all right, so far the rookie votes are winning. That's awesome. Particularly if you're a rookie here, I'd love to know that. So put Michael Elwin, a newbie. Awesome. Wonderful. Great to have you all here. We have a couple of housekeeping things that we need to keep track of, and then we're going to get on to meeting the Voicefluencers and getting you involved in the discussions and having you have the chance to ask them a question. I'll say this right off the bat. If you want to ask one of or two of these people a question, you're going to see a box at the bottom that says ask a question. That's where you can click on that, type in your question. If it's directed towards a particular person, then please feel free to do so. Type that person's name and ask that question. And then everybody else, have a look at that box, have a look at where it says ask a question, and vote on your favorite ones, because that is how we're going to decide which questions get answered. All right. So let's move along. And I want to just, before we go any further though, I do need to give a huge shout out to our sponsors. Amazon Alexa. Hope everybody's muted their devices. Amazon Alexa has been a wonderful supporter, one of our headliner sponsors. And as you may know, they have a Amazon Alexa developer community on Slack. And so if you are not part of that, you have a chance to go and engage with the developers and experts from Alexa's technical and product teams. And with all those announcements that just happened, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with those, it's a great opportunity. I'm going to put a link in the chat right now. Let's do that. And this will take you directly to, oh, that's great. I had a message there before and I didn't delete that. Let's do that again. There you go. That's the link to the Alexa Slack if you want to check it out. And I encourage you to definitely do so. As well, hey, Google. Google Assistant is another one of our headliner sponsors. And as well, it's so wonderful to have them providing support for this show. As you know, in partnership with Modev, they do a series called Voice Talks. The next one is tomorrow, and it's all about voice and commerce. So if you want to check that out, here is the link. This will take you directly to the page where you can check out Voice Talks. So I encourage you to do so as well. And I'm seeing lots of people saying first time. Another Teri. Teri, welcome. Good to have you here. And then certainly last but not least, we have a number of partners. Attention Live, who has been a media partner for a tremendously long time. Thank you to Attention Live. Audio Brain, who does all the sonic branding that you're hearing both during the show and in the augmented reality after party. And Spatial Web, that's the platform that we are using for the augmented reality after party. So thank you to all of our sponsors as well. Okay, now we're going to get the Voicefluencers here on screen. We're going to meet them, learn a little bit about them, and then we're going to get this show underway. And again, if you're new here, the way this works is we've got the Ask a Question box. You'll see that at the bottom of your screen. You click on that and you simply type in your question. Who do you want to ask your question to? And type in your question. And we're going to have fun answering those questions. And they could be anything from, well, voice design all the way to, what are you drinking? The floor is yours. So you get to decide. You decide the content of the next hour. So with that being said, I'm going to invite our voicefluencers up onto the stage, and we're going to get a chance to meet all of them, have a quick chat with them, and then we're going to go from there. So here's what we do: a little bit of juggling. I'm just going to send all these invites to our voicefluencers, and they will be joining us up here very shortly. And I'm also going to give you a quick little bio of each one of these as we introduce them. All righty, here we go. Here we go. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and one more. Let's see here. Here we go. And there we go. And there's Celene. Amazing, amazing. Okay. Well, first off, we'll just go in the order that we see people on the screen here. I want to welcome Jim Kennelly. And Jim, let me tell you about Jim. So actually, maybe even better than going by his bio, I have to tell a little story that Jim spoke with me about on the Voicefluencers show the other day. We met at Voice Summit a couple of years ago. We happened to be sitting at the same table in at a workshop on voice design, and we exchanged business cards, and Jim reminded me that's how we met. And Jim is the owner and producer director of Lotus Productions. And they operate one of New York's premier one-stop shops for voiceover casting. And he's right at the intersection of AI and voiceover. So Jim, great to have you here. And you're the talent amplifier. So tell us a little bit about that nickname.
Well, thanks, Teri. Of course, it's great to be here and a great panel. I'm looking forward to the questions and meeting people. At Lotus Productions, we do voiceover casting, direction, production. We work with voice actors, and we really know that it's the voice actor that drives the voiceover industry. In the last 4 years, we've taken a lot of time to learn about AI and try to, as you said, try to make a bridge between the voiceover world that we really understand and this new emerging AI world that voiceover and voice actors are going to be such a big part of. So tonight, I'm happy to talk about AI, but tonight I'd really like to focus on meeting some new voice talent and, of course, growing the relationships that we have with voice talents who I already see their names. We just want to get to know them better, because by building better relationships, we're able to cast more specifically and also open up the diversity of casting that we work on. So happy to be here.
Awesome, Jim. Love it. Love it. Well, thanks so much for being here. Tiarne often goes by T Hawkins. We met on Clubhouse a little while back, and Tiarne is the Global Director of Customer Success for AI Services at We Localize. She has 15 years of experience in digital transformation, innovation, and AI-related fields, scaling multi-million-dollar and billion-dollar international businesses across many continents and countries and all over the world. So it's great to have you here as well. And you shared that you spent 4 years in the Army. That's interesting. Tell us a little about you and what the deal is with that.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It's so wonderful to be here, and I see so many familiar faces popping up and some new names popping up as well. So my name's Tiarne, also go by T-Rex. T-Rex actually came as my nickname in the military, and I made the mistake of telling someone at work, and so it stuck. I wish I buried it back there with my military secrets, but yeah, long and short of it, country girl, grew up in Australia. You know, the natural thing to do when you grow up in a country town is to join the military, and after that, I worked out I wanted a corporate career. So started young in the military, and then sort of ended up in the digital transformation world, working for a founder, and had the opportunity to have an international career. So Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai, London, and now the United States. And yeah, now I work in conversational artificial intelligence, building Alexa, building Google. I hope they're not being triggered at home, but that's basically what I do at scale. So it's lovely to be here.
Awesome. Well, great. Thanks. And it's a pleasure to have you here. Over to the FLOWSTER. I think that nickname does not need a whole lot of introduction here. We've got Braden, the CEO of VoiceFlow. One of the 3 people currently on screen we noticed who is in Canada. So that's a little bonus points there, Braden. He's the founder and CEO of VoiceFlow. And if you don't know, VoiceFlow is wow, it's an impressive company. It's a collaborative conversation design tool used by 70, I have to get these numbers right, 70,000 teams powering 300 million messages per year for customers. And to date, they have raised $25 million in funding. So Braden, great to have you here. And tell us about your experience with business school. How'd that end for you?
Go for my soft spot there. I dropped out of business school my last year, so that's certainly what Teri's referencing there. But yeah, no, I mean, super excited to be here. It's always fun when you have a couple other Canadians on the call as well. So happy to chat voice design, conversation design, really kind of anything within the realm of voice and AI. So excited to be here.
Fantastic. Great, Braden. Yeah, good to see you as well. Oita Coleman. So I met you relatively recently. And I've only heard wonderful things about you, and in my interactions with you, I can only say that they are very accurate. Oita is the senior advisor for the Open Voice Network. She's got extensive experience leading global teams focused on enterprise software quality, standards, and best practices. And she's distinguished by an innate talent to connect the dots of opportunity that wind through an organization, bringing people and processes together. She brings those skills to the Open Voice Network as a senior advisor, where she leads privacy, security, and ethical use workshops. And I know we spoke a little about this previously, but not everybody knows this. Your nickname is the QUOD Voc. So maybe you can tell us a little about that as well.
Well, yes. So that means the voice of reason. And so as someone who has spent a significant amount of my career in software quality, leading the global organization at SAS Institute, which is an analytic software company delivering AI products as well. And so being in the role of head of quality, you have the challenge of making sure that the software is ready to ship from a quality perspective in terms of usability, performance, feature set. And there's always this balance. You have to strike the balance between the business and quality. You can keep it in-house all the time, but there at some point the software has to be released, and there is the tension and the need to balance between the business and the quality perspective. And it's similar to, and I bring that perspective to the Open Voice Network, because as we develop standards and guidelines and best practices, we can set the bar so high that none of the platforms will meet it, none of the independent developers will meet it, and it won't. We would never be able to deliver on anything that the community will agree on. So we have to strike that balance between, again, the needs of the business, the needs of the enterprise, as well as the needs of the consumer. So bringing that talent to the Open Voice Network. So thank you, Teri, for the invitation to participate, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here. And then we have, certainly last but not least, another Canadian here, well, at least in Canada, Celene Osiecka, a senior director for conversation design at 247.ai. She's been designing conversational interfaces using emerging technologies, like chatbots, AI, natural language, and machine learning for the last 16 years. With over 500 conversational interface deployments in the financial, telecommunications, travel, retail, and education industries. With a background in psychology and HCI, she currently leads a team of conversational designers, product owners, and optimization experts that seek to design innovative and groundbreaking conversational interfaces. And you are the AUTOMATOR, and actually you've got some interesting stories about feature films and stuff. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that as well. Great to have you here.
Yeah. So yeah, the feature film part or the AUTOMATOR part? What's more interesting?
They're both interesting.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think my job is pretty much to automate as much as possible and make sense, right? Because not everything makes sense to automate, but that's my goal, is to look for opportunities for automation through chatbots, through voice, through FAQs, through transactional flows for a lot of our enterprise clients that we deal with, and just looking how to make machines and humans work together. So that's my automation story. And then, yeah, so before I had kids, I used to have free time, and I did a lot of filmmaking. I made a lot of music videos. I made some feature films. Got my creative outlet out that way. So I wouldn't say anything are Hollywood worthy or groundbreaking, but it was fun to do, interesting to work with actors and, just on location and planning out, and then you get to see your cool work at the end. So yeah, it was a fun hobby on the side.
Amazing. Well, great. It's great to have you here, Celene. Thank you for being here. All right. So as everybody can see, we've got an incredible lineup of speakers here. So much knowledge here in these 5 people. And I would love to get this party started here with the questions. So again, here's how it works. You're going to see along the bottom of your screen, everybody check this out. It says ask a question. When you click on that, you're going to see a button that says ask a question or suggest a topic. That is where you type in what you want to ask these 5 experts. And then we will select a couple of them at a time and go from there. I'm going to ask a question to get things started. And maybe I can pick on 2 of you to kind of get the ball rolling here. And given that just yesterday, I'm trying to keep track of my days, I'm losing track of the days. Just yesterday, Amazon came out with their announcements of all of their new products. And the one that was kind of the big wow factor was this little robot called Astro. So maybe we can get, I'd love to get the take on, and actually, no, we've got all 5 here on screen. Why don't we just do this? I'm gonna impose the time limit on us, and we're gonna do a quick hot take here, and we're gonna go around and we're gonna find out, what are your thoughts on Astro? Would you have Astro in your home? Kind of just your overall opinion on seeing that Amazon is developing a robot that is voice enabled and is going to be following you around. So bow wow factor. I love that, Richard. All right. So while you guys are asking your questions, I'm putting up, for those of you that are new here, we're putting up a time limit. And let me put that up on the screen right now. We got 5 minutes for this particular topic. And why don't we just go around? And Jim, why don't we actually, well, let's go backwards. Let's start with Celene and we'll kind of go the other way just to keep things interesting. All right, Celene. So let's start this and away you go. What do you think about this thing?
Sure. Yeah, we talked about this earlier, but yeah, I think it's interesting because it's not in the form that we're used to, right? Before, in our houses, we have this little box that doesn't really look like a human. But in sci-fi movies, we have these humanoid things, right? That are maids and butlers and things like that. But now we have this little thing that's kind of a combination of both. And I was talking to Teri earlier, and it kind of looks like, to me, like a dog, like a pet, right? So it's interesting. I wonder how the interactions will be different with this versus a box that sits on your desk versus a human, right? That's something that looks and talks like a human, right? So it's going to be interesting. Do you treat it more like a pet? Do you show affection to it? Are you able to more have free flowing conversations with it because it's a pet and it won't judge you, versus, having a human standing and watching you and waiting for your every move. So it's just, I think it's cute, but it might be really powerful because it kind of opens you up and all that vulnerability comes out because you're going to talk to it maybe like you would your pet. So it's just interesting to see what kind of interactions will come from it.
Yeah, great. Oita, what do you think?
Wow, interesting question, and all sorts of things come to my mind. As we just mentioned, Celene, is it a companion or is it a servant? What's the relationship? What's the human factor around this? And then as you go, as you think about it, of course, from the Open Voice Network, what are privacy issues and what are the, what is security around it? What are the ethical concerns around it? Those are the kinds of questions that come to my mind. And then so how do we protect the rights around it? And if it's in the home, who owns it? Whose data is it? Is it the person? Is there, I hate to use the word master, is there a specific owner, or does the community, does the family own it? And then all of those things come to my mind if you're visiting and you have family, friends over, and this device is there in, waiting in wake mode, do they need to give consent to have this thing, lording over them? So all kinds of things, all the kinds of questions just come to mind of, wow, as Janice put in the chat, what could go wrong,
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Awesome. Hey, I'm by the way, I'm making the executive decision. We're going to extend this one a little bit longer than the 5 minutes because I want to get the opinions of everybody here, and it seems like there's a lot of interest in the chat as well on this particular topic. So don't feel compelled. I'm going to reset the clock for another 5 minutes. But Braden, what do you think about this for the bow wow factor or whatever?
You might not have to reset the clock. This was one of the I have many strong opinions, and opinions on Astro are not one of them. I saw that. I think it is just indicative of how Amazon likes to innovate. They have a ton of small teams building just a whole variety of different devices, and they certainly they're not shy to really push the envelope. And I think Astro is one of the a good example of that. But I had, other than the shock factor of seeing them do it, I didn't really have much of an opinion other than that's very interesting.
Fair enough. T, what do you think? What do you think about this idea?
I'm going to throw a spanner in the works. I'm super excited. I'm a bit of a tech geek like that. So I just want to interact and see where the technology is from a professional standpoint. I do agree when it comes to data privacy. Like, do you have to let somebody know when they're coming over, if it's in the room with you, or if, you've got kids and it strolls down or it overhears your kids having a conversation on the phone. Like, there's obviously some issues that need to be worked out, but I'm super excited about it as a short. So, I think it's the start. I personally want a robot to do my laundry and other things. So I've got a personal reason to start to digitize my house and experiences. And I also really believe in personal AI. So having something that can dictate and listen to my meeting, make notes for me, categorize things, because they're all the things I don't like doing. So I'm for it. I'm all for playing with it. And I plan on getting one.
Awesome. By the way, check out the poll, everybody. I just put in a poll in there. Would you have Astro in your home? But Jim, go ahead. You get the final word on this. What do you think?
Well, I don't know if it's the final word. I think my initial reaction was a little creepy, but I like devices in my home. I've had them for years. They're all over my house. I think the ability of it to move with you will make it very popular. The fact that you can take the experience with you as you move through your day from room to room, I think that's a really interesting feature. If you get away from the $9.99 and that it does look like a dog, you get away from those ideas and just get them in people's homes. Young people are going to love it. Children are going to love it. And if kids like it, the parents like it. So I think they'll find a lot of success. But the way the experience can move with you as your day goes, as opposed to room, I think that's key. That's what they're working on. So bring it on. What could go bad?
Could go back. Let's have a look at the poll. I'm just curious now. Let's see. Would you invite Astro into your home? We have interesting. So eight people, 53% say no, 26% say yes, and 20% say not sure. It's fascinating. Yeah. I didn't vote. I would actually vote yes, but again, I mean, I'm here hosting the voice stand. I'm a techie at heart, like T, so not surprised there. But that's really interesting. All right, awesome. Well, come on, let's dig into the question bank here. We don't have a lot of questions. Don't be shy. Nobody here is going to bite. We're going to have a fun time, and otherwise, I'm going to kick it off again. The question that we do have there is, what purpose will it serve with Astro? So I think we've sort of touched on that in a couple of different opinions. But Michael, I really appreciate that. If you got another question, Michael, feel free to ask it, and we'll get you on stage here to go ahead and do so. Let's focus a question. I'm going to keep Jim and Oita up here on stage for a little bit, and I'd love to turn the discussion towards where your interests lie, and that's with voiceover artists versus AI, and maybe some of the ethics around the way that works. So I would love to kind of ask the question to both of you, and we'll put the timer up here. Let me bring that back up. The future of voiceover artists and the idea that their voices are going to be used more and more as a voice dub or a synthetic voice, or however you want to use it, and the ethical implications for what does that mean for that artist going forward? How do you protect them? But also, what are the opportunities? So it's a little bit of a broad topic, but I know that both of you are very, very knowledgeable in that, and I think it would be a great opportunity to kind of chat about that. So, Jim, do you want to kind of kick it off and just tell us where you see that going in the next couple of years?
Sure. Maybe I'll talk about opportunity, and then maybe Oita can talk about the ethics behind it. I think that might be our expertise.
Sure.
The opportunity at the moment, obviously, we've developed some synthetic voice from voice actors. Obviously, it always requires a voice actor. Starts with a real actor at the beginning. But we're using it right now as scratch tracks, as replacements for some dialogue, so that editors can get to work on projects. We see that use. Obviously, there's translation uses and localization uses, but that's not so much a part of Lotus Productions. We're using them on very short 6-second, 10-second promos. We see that. Some IVR work we've done with them, but mainly scratch tracks we see it as. And obviously, we're also very involved in making sure that talent is paid fairly once we do use their voices on these platforms. That's the where we see it happening right now. That's the action that we see. We also are very much involved in getting a variety of voices. You know, obviously, Alexa has a voice, Google has a voice. There are some varieties that those companies offer, but our companies, brands, are looking for specific voices, just like they do in regular broadcast accounts. So we're working very much on creating a really diverse styles within the synthetic voices that we create. But maybe you can talk about the ethics of it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Oita.
so as part of the Open Voice Network, we have spun up a group, a special interest group focused on synthetic voice. And we are close to being putting out our statement of support and the guidance around it. And it is a very good community that's comprised of people within the entertainment and media industry, voice actors and players there. And some of the questions, as Jim mentioned, you know, it comes around ethics of who owns its ownership, intellectual property, who owns that, and what are the parameters around it, and then contractual issues around it from the voice actor's perspective. So those are the types of discussions that we're having. The other ethical factors are, you know, this example has been raised a couple of times. It's, you know, the Samuel Jackson, who records a movie, and it's, you know, his voice, synthetic voice in Mandarin Chinese. So what if something is translated or is incorrect, or there is something around what he's saying that may not be correct, politically correct? So what are the implications if something in synthetic voice says something that is politically incorrect or that's incorrect from a grammar or from a value proposition or something that they don't believe in? So that's against their moral beliefs. So what happens when those things happen? So where's the, you know, who owns the resolution of those problems? What's the implications of that, and how do you resolve those type of issues? So it's been a very healthy discussion, very good discussion around that, and but it's something that we really do want to put out a statement of support, because it is something growing. Is not something that you can stop. It is there, but then how can we put some parameters around it and make sure that all interests are represented in that equation, from the enterprise, the media, from the voice actors, make sure that everybody's interest is protected.
Yeah, I'm on one of the committees for the Open Voice Network. It's really a privilege for me and the Lotus Productions people to be on that. In specific, we're on a group that's dealing with looking at contracts coming out of SAG-AFTRA, the Performers Union here in the United States, and also looking at contracts that synthetic voice designers are creating and offering to talents. So we're trying to put together some guidelines for agents, managers, the unions, independent voice talents to look at, and when they go into discussions with brands or designers of synthetic voices. It's great work. It's patient work, but we're really looking forward to coming out with some really solid ideas for people to help grow their careers on through the Open Voice Network.
And one final thing on that is we're talking about it from the consumer's perspective as well. Does the consumer have the right to know whether a voice is a real actor's voice or a synthetic voice? So what's the responsibility to the consumer as well?
That's great.
Great. Well, thank you. That was great. Lots of two experts on this topic. So thank you for answering that question. And you know, this discussion prompted, I can see, a number of other questions around voice and voiceover artists in our question bank here. So we're going to get to those shortly. For now, thank you, Jim and Oita. I'm going to say goodbye to the two of you. We'll bring up two other people here in just a moment. I want to invite Dana onto the screen to ask his question. So I'm going to do that. And we'll keep moving right along here. We'll see the two of you shortly. All right. And so for this one, Dana's got a question about the other big announcement that Amazon made with regards to the Echo Show 15. So for this one, I think we're gonna bring up Braden. So let me do that. Let me invite you up here, Braden. Hi, Dana. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us as always.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure. So let's bring up Braden, and let me bring up Celene as well. So let's do that. Here we go. All right. And I think Celene should be joining us here just momentarily. And then Braden, we'll let you ask the question, because this was the other big announcement that Amazon made, which I think is probably a little more closer to being realized. Anyway, Dana, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, one of the other devices that was announced was the Echo Show 15. And what it's brought to our attention as is a family hub type of thing. It can recognize who's in front of it, and then just display the information that pertains to that user. So it seems pretty exciting. I mean, it's pretty cheap considering too.
So question, like thoughts about, like, Amazon's strategy and what does that mean for people, that sort of thing?
Yeah, what do you think about the idea?
Sure. Yeah. Braden, want to take that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it is another data point on sort of the trend of conversational AI just getting more personalized. And so it's all about trying to take in context, right? Where is the user? What device is the user on? And so in this case, it's who is the user. And so I see us continuing to add more and more context to all of our conversations. I know that the goal of Amazon Alexa and the other assistants, and really all conversational AI in general, is to be able to have the right conversation with the right person, the right setting, the right time, right? So it's another great way of ensuring that you're getting the right context, and it's going to give developers a lot of flexibility in terms of being able to develop experiences that are specific to the asker versus having to have a few dialogues to figure out who's talking before you actually hop in. So it's kind of where my head was immediately at is another step in the right direction towards sort of a context first world. With that, I'll pass it to Celene.
Yeah, Celene.
Thanks. Yeah, sorry, it's kind of mute. Yeah, so I think it's interesting because you're right. It does give you more contextual information to give the right answers. Maybe in a, I know Braden had he created like apps for kids, right? The voice tech for kids originally. So if a teenager or a kid is asking a question, it is different than an adult potentially. So I think you can start to customize those and put them in as entities. So you can start to say, well, if this gender or this age or this group is asking, present this, right? It's kind of like ads, right? Personalized ads. It's just now you're much more personalized. So it gives you a lot more context. But then, yeah, at the same time, any kind of recognition, right? If you're taking any personal information, it just gets a little, what's the line, right? So what information can you take? What, as a user, am I comfortable with you taking that information of how maybe they can start to assess my mood and say, oh, I see you're sad today. Would you like me to book you a spa day or something? And then it gets, do you want, it's just an ethical question, right? How should we have settings on that of maybe how much it can recognize and how much input that actually puts into the apps that it's using? So yeah, it's just interesting what it could bring. Very exciting, but also you're getting into, a lot of ethical questions. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. Both of you kept mentioning context, and that's something else that you think about. It's like, will it bring in more context? And everybody raises a lot of issues about context. You can't use a lot of information, is not legally or ethically.
Yeah, it's the PII, right? That's what they call it. Yeah, exactly. And although you might be able to collect it, it definitely can't store it. You definitely can't persist in it, right? And sometimes, you shouldn't use that again, especially if it deals with health and things like that. Then you get into all the HIPAA things. So so it's, what is it actually able to do, and but again, like Braden said, very powerful. You can do a lot of cool things with it. So yeah, it's very true.
Yeah, on the emotion side, it's interesting to ask too. Like, I can imagine for contact centers, the anger emotion is one which you would want to actually act on, right? So if someone is clearly irritated or angry, they're probably frustrated. It would be a little bit okay to respond in a different manner, trying to get them through the interaction, trying to get them to an agent faster, versus
very carefully.
Yeah, exactly. Versus, I think, if someone was clearly sad, I think, responding with something like, that was referencing their sad might actually piss them off. And so it's funny. It's, not all emotions should be catered to equally. And I think that's the same sort of principle, humans would take too. Right. So yeah, it'd be interesting when emotion starts to become something that we design for, because today, it's kind of one of those thought experiments, but it's less used in practice, especially at like the enterprise level.
Yeah. So there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of reasons for not taking on those possibilities.
Yeah.
You know what I find? It keeps coming back to the work that the Open Voice Network is doing. Like, what are the guidelines? What are the ethics? What are because the technology is so amazing what we have at our fingertips. How do you use it responsibly? So anyway, great question, Dana. Love the discussion. So fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us and for asking the question. And thanks, Braden and Celene, for the answers. Fantastic.
Sure.
Thanks.
All righty. So let's dive into the question bank here again to see if we have some new questions here. So I'm going to invite, I'm just going to have a look at these questions and see if we can make sure that we've got a variety of things here. If you had a group of people with different knowledge levels, but I'm not sure I understand the final question there, Michael. I'm going to bring up Jacqueline. So I'm going to say goodbye to Celene and Braden for a bit. So thank you, you two. And Jacqueline, I see you asked a question. You've got a couple of votes. So let's invite you up on screen. Thank you for your question. And this looks like for sure we should get Jim up for this one. But I'm also going to bring T up, and we're going to kind of rephrase this a little bit because I want to get her take on this in a slightly different way. So let me invite Jim and T up to the stage here as well. So let's do that. All right. Here's a little juggling act again.
Hi.
Hello, Jacqueline. Welcome.
Thank you. Wow, this is so cool. I've never done this before on Crowdcast.
Well, here you are. It's wonderful. Do you want to just give us a quick little intro who you are? What's your story? So we know a little bit about you, because I know you're new here. So wonderful.
Yeah. I'm completely new here. So I kind of hit a bunch of different areas. I am a clinical nutritionist in oncology research, but I also am a medical voiceover artist. So focus primarily medical, health, pharma, things like that. And I'm also in the Women in Voice Tech Accelerator, and studying Python development and hoping to kind of intersect my health, voice, and tech backgrounds and all into one. I don't know how yet, though.
Love it. I don't know if you know this, but I totally relate to what you're saying. I'm a physician myself, and I'm obsessed with voice tech, obviously, as you can tell. So I love merging those two. So you've got a very interesting question. I'm going to let you ask it to Jim, and then I'm also going to kind of rephrase it a little bit for T, I think, because given her expertise in language models, NLP, and design AI, I'm curious to get her take as well on voiceover versus like text to speech, and how that can affect interactions. But let me turn it over to you, Jacqueline. Why don't you kick it off with your question? Jim can maybe start with the answer.
Sure.
Hey, well, my question, hi, Jim. My question is, how can voice talent that is interested in becoming more involved in giving their voice or being voice talent for AI voice, how they can go about doing that? I've done some Google searching and things like that, but are there agencies that are specifically just working on this with talent? Is there a limited pool of people that they're working with at this point? What does that look like?
Sure, it's a great question. We're asked that a lot. There are ways you can do it. Obviously, the Open Voice Network, we've mentioned it a number of times today, but there are some voice talents on the committee that I'm on that works on looking at contracts and developing best languages for negotiation. So you're welcome to contact us and get involved in that. We can get you on that committee. I think we have a meeting in 2 weeks. So you got 2 weeks to prepare for it. There are some companies, I happen to have a partnership where we do the voice casting for Vocal ID. It's a company out of Boston, and
I'm
Vocal ID. Yeah, well, very good. Then you can look them up. Vocal ID has 2 programs. They have an enterprise program where we're doing things commercially for them, but they also have a program where you can just volunteer your voice and have it synthesized, and it could be used for, someone who does not have a voice. Obviously, it's more for a support type program. People who have ALS, people who have lost their voice never fully developed. So you could get an experience that way. But what we say to people really is start to do your research. You're dreaming about it, so now learn about it and then act on it. So if you contact us through the Open Voice Network, we'll put you in touch with other people who are developing voices. Right now, it's very expensive to have a synthetic voice made, so we don't see individual talents having it done by themselves. You don't actually pay to have it done. You want to join up with a company, designers who are developing voices, and then have it made that way. So that would be my tip. Come with us and reach out to us at Lotus Productions. Like I said, one of my points of coming here tonight is to meet new talents. So you're the first one.
Yay!
There you go.
Thank you.
Success.
But let me let you turn it over to T, and T can help blow it up in a more exciting way.
Yeah, T, like I said, I'd love to hear your take on when you hear like voiceover and your expertise with NLP, and how do those sort of meld together?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, the world of language modeling is in either text or voice. And if we think about the world of acoustic modeling and we look at voice data sets globally, there is not a lot of voice data. And a lot of voice data needs to be created to train these models, and specifically voice data for domains. So we need domain expertise, which would bring in your expertise in your current domain. So you could be blending that domain plus your voice plus your love for AI together by maybe working with a company that's sourcing or searching for voice annotators or voiceover artists to come in, and you'll sit down with a model or a platform, and the platform will say, tell me 5 ways to cancel your credit card. And you'll say 5 different ways you wouldn't cancel your credit card, and it collects your voice and then it gets annotated. But that would be one very, very high level. We're just moving more into acoustic modeling now. And that refers to the ASR world. So that would be like it'd be more of a technical way to do so. And we do that in like 250 languages. So we need like multilingual, bilingual, international domain specialists that just want to use their voice to help train these models, because voice data is needed. So reach out. We localize, we hire people all the time. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to take them to a back channel.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so interested in that side too. I was just watching a video about NVIDIA and what they're doing with this synthetic voice. And very, very cool. And since I'm learning Python, I'm interested in doing the development side as well.
We're looking for natural voice as well. So you can, we're not doing a lot of synthetic yet, but we just need more voice data, more people from everywhere in every domain to help train these models. So it's also another aspect to think of.
Yeah, so you see, Jacqueline, T's right. There's lots of opportunity. It's just a matter of, you like I said, you've been dreaming about it. Now you can learn about it and then just do it.
Yeah.
We're ready to go.
Excellent.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Celene,
look forward to hearing from you.
There you go. This is great. I love it. Making contacts here. Celene also had a contact that she put in the text of the question, but I don't think you can see that now unless you click on the answered part. So there's another resource. Oops, I have to put the timer on myself. There's another resource there for you as well. And so if you're not sure, Celene could probably hook you up with another resource. Lots of resources here.
So many resources. So many.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thanks, Jacqueline.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for joining us here. It's wonderful. Wonderful to see you. And I always love to see new faces. So welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Okay, so let's see how we are doing with these questions. And let's go back in and where are the time? We have enough time for maybe 2 more here. And let's see here. So we've got some that are, I'm just looking for some that kind of bring us a little bit of variety as well to our discussions. Okay, so there's one here, and I do want to just give a chance because this one did get an extra vote here. Teri asks, Teri, I'm going to invite you up on screen. This may be a relatively quick question, I think, but we'll keep Jim up here, and let me bring up Celene as well. And T, thank you for the great answer. We'll see you back in a bit. Okay, so let me bring up Celene here, and Teri, I'm inviting you as well.
Yay.
And Celene. This is more about kind of how do you define some of these terms with voice and hi Teri, welcome. Great to have you here.
Hi Joe. Hi Teri. Good to
Teri.
be here.
Do you want to just while Celine's coming up on stage here, I'm inviting her. Do you want to give us a quick intro to who you are as well?
Sure. I'm a voice actor, also an actor, and an educational consultant. So while I do all forms of voiceover, I specialize in e-learning because I love working on the user and the learner experience and making that better.
Awesome. Great. So this is, like I say, you've got some questions about definitions and this, we'll see. Let's see where the conversation goes, but I'd love for you to have a chance to ask that and get some clarification. So why don't you take it away?
Sure. So I'm kind of one step ahead of Jacqueline, maybe, where I was dreaming about AI. And so I have been working through Lotus and Vocal ID, which is so exciting and scary. And so one of the things that I help people in the community, in the voiceover community who are scared out of their mind, is just kind of talking about the process I'm going through with them. And I'm finding that there's a lot of confusion in terminology, even within myself. So what's, a synthetic voice, does that mean it comes from a human voice and now it's synthetic, or is it just generated, a made voice? So what are all the different, vocal likeness, synthetic voice cloning? Are they all synonymous, or are there gradations that differentiate them in some way?
So it looks like Jim is reconnecting. I'm not sure. Celene, do you want to kind of first take a stab at that?
Yeah. Jim probably has better answer than me because I know he's into that all the time. But I know, in our world too, the terminology in this world, I'll just say across the board, not just for this term, but any term there's so many terms that mean the same thing. So don't feel bad that you're confused about the different terms, because I think it's so new. Everybody's just kind of making up their own thing, and then eventually they'll intersect. I think we'll start to use common terms. But like the term that we use, we basically would do two in our work. We do audio recordings, which is a real person like Jim works with, and then we use the term text to speech, so neural text to speech or text to speech. Okay. And that, but that the voice that's doing that is typically, like Jim said, I think based on a real person voice, and then it's just converted into the text to speech model that we hear from. But like Amazon Polly is text to speech, Microsoft Azure is text to speech. So, but we can customize. I know we've had clients too that ask this, where they already have their IVR, for example, all in one voice, and they want to create the same voice for more of the text to speech voice. So we can take that same voice actor's voice and create that. So whatever that's called, synthetic. Jim might know the actual term, but I know that is, there's kind of three different ones, right? There's the actual synthesized, computer voice that doesn't have any human. There's the human that creates the text to speech voice, and then there's the actual human voice. But I see Jim's back, so
yes,
it's just taking my take on it, Jim. But you might have a better answer.
I'm sure it was brilliant. I just rephrase. I know Teri and I are friends. We know each other professionally, but just rephrase your question. You want to know what term we use most often?
Yeah, just what are the differences in the different? I was saying that I am. Answering questions for people who want to know about this process, and I'm just walking through it. So I'm not able to give them a good answer because I don't have one.
No, I think the problem comes from like different companies and different have used different names. Like Vocal ID happens to use voice dub. They'd like to coin that phrase. Is it the best phrase? I don't know, but they like it. It's their company, so they call what we'll make of your voice, your human voice, will be known as your voice dub. Seems to make sense to us. But other companies use other phrases. So they're really just synthetic voices. They're not really AI voices. I don't think that's quite correct. But there's synthetic versions of your voice that will be used in AI. That's kind of what's happening.
Okay. So a text-to-speech voice is something that's generated just through a computer. It doesn't involve a human.
It doesn't have the emotion. It won't reflect the emotion. Not to play up Vocal ID, but when you're done, one of the things that amazed us when we first started to have the voice actors turned into synthetic versions is how much your personality was in the voice dub. Like it's really you, like your family, anybody who knows you will know it's you. But what we've learned is that if you're good at commercial work, it comes into your synthetic voice. If you're good at e-lessons, it's in your, if you're good at promos, it's in the synthetic voice. So that's why we're casting very specifically, even when we do synthetic voices and voice dubs, because certain voice actors, your natural ability comes into the synthetic voice that we create and then work with, because we do designing on your voice once we have it.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps.
Another
And I
point
apologize for disappearing.
Another thing you can help that is that, you know, different companies will, you know, this process is taking a while, right? This takes hours,
Yes.
and which is cool because there's no specs. There's just being used. I love that part.
Right.
But there's some companies that are just like, oh, jump on and put your voice in and we'll shoot you back something. So I was also wondering about the level of quality, and, you know, it sounds pretty decent, some of them that you can do quickly. So I didn't know, you know, is there a more thorough process for that? And I know I'm piggybacking on my question, so it's okay.
No, that's all right. Well, Celene could talk to that too. But yeah, the more time and the more information that we're able to gather from you in a very natural way, the better quality voice dub that we make.
Okay, that's
awesome. You're going to come out great. Because if you remember, when we did the audition, we just asked you to talk about yourself.
Yeah.
We didn't need you. It wasn't read any copy. The audition was like, hey, where did you come from? What you're about. So that's how we get a more natural read. Sorry.
No, that's great. Teri, thank you very much for the question and for joining us. Awesome. And love the discussion. There's always, we never know what question we're going to get. And it's such an important concept. I can't say how many times I've been in rooms and it's like, what are you referring to? It's a different term. So anyway, fantastic. And thank you for that question. And thank you for the clarification, both of you. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
All right. So we'll say goodbye to the three of you for a little bit here. I want to bring up T and Oita, because I want to ask them a question that it's been on my mind a little bit. And I'm sorry, I'm going to take an executive decision here, because I think this is an important concept. And we've got these two experts that I really, really want to take advantage of their knowledge here for this question. And what I'm thinking about is we've got T, that's an expert on data sets and NLP, and we've got Oita, who is looking at privacy and security and ethics. And my question around this is, how do you balance collecting data from people through their interactions with the other side of that coin, the privacy and the security? And how do you sort of reconcile that? What is the approach to do that in a responsible, ethical manner? So I think Oita's just joining us on the screen here as well. Did you catch that, T? When you came up, were you able to hear that question? Yeah. Why don't we get you to start that off, if that's okay? And if you need more clarification, I'm happy to provide that. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. So for us personally, we're on the human generated data side of the business. So we generate all of our data sets from scratch, unless a customer has asked us to annotate, of which the responsibility is on them to ensure that the data that they're supplying us has been obtained ethically, and that it's not personal data from somebody and yada, yada, yada. But in short, you know, when you think about Siri data, when you think about Hey Google or any of those, they can't just listen to you and then give your data to a third-party company like ours to then annotate that data and tell us a little bit more about exactly, you know, maybe it's sentiment analysis, or maybe you were talking about a certain product or whatever it may be. So that's certainly not happening. And companies like ours out there have fairly strict rules in place to ensure that the data that we do work on for our customers has been obtained ethically. And it does follow each data guideline. And every country is different, because we're an international company. We have 250 languages we cover. We essentially ensure that each of those models that we put together from a data perspective are all adhering to the local rules. So that's kind of my high level. Oita, over to you.
That's great. Were you able to hear that question there, Oita, when you were joining there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. And Tiarne, everything she said, I wholeheartedly agree with, in terms of the privacy, security, and the use of data, making sure that is conveyed why you're using the data, what will it be used, transparency, consent, and control. How long are you going to keep my data? What kind of decisions are you going to make from my data? there are all kinds of decisions that can be made with your voice print. Decisions related to mental health, physical health, your age, your gender, all kinds of things can be derived from analyzing your voice print. So making sure that it's clear why you're not just what you're going to do with the data in terms of time, you're going to keep it on hand or who you're going to share it with, but then what kind of decisions are you going to make? I saw just recently Apple said, announced that they are going to be analyzing whether you're depressed, like using and gaining and analyzing the information that's collected on your phone over time to be able to look for markers of depression. At least letting people know. And then not only, okay, once you say and you come to the conclusion that, okay, because I haven't called my mother in 2 weeks and I'm ordering Amazon Prime, ice cream every night for, and you're looking for these patterns and saying that I'm depressed, then what are you going to do with it? Who is that data going to be shared with after you make that determination? What happens to the data? And then, so not just privacy, security, and the use of the voice data, there are factors of, we're looking at inclusivity, making sure that that the voice assistants accurately understand all users, regardless of gender, dialect, language, and abilities. Those things are so important because there are so many people, from aging from autistic. And we had a professor from Swansea University in the UK who talked to us about people who want to use a technology who stutter, making sure that what can we do, what is our advice and guidance to make sure the technology is inclusive, not just of gender and ethnicity, but all abilities, all languages, all dialects is so important. So those are ethical factors that are important.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And to add to that just quickly, I think this comes into the realm of data security from your own personal data perspective, and then obviously training data, which is needed to train the machines or the algorithms to be able to interact and be inclusive and be ethical and all the other things. So there's multiple components in that would take probably longer than 5 minutes to break down every aspect.
Yeah, right.
I really talk for days around data guidelines and the rights of data, but there's the consumer and the business to consider.
Exactly. We could talk about this for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's a big topic for sure. I appreciate you sharing what you can in each 2 minutes each. So thank you very much. That's great. That's great. But clearly you've got a lot more to share there. And sometimes I feel like we could do a whole episode on just one of the questions.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you both. I'm going to ask one final question because I want to bring Braden and Celene up to finish off. So thank you, T. Thank you, Oita. We're going to say goodbye for now. And this one is really about conversation design because those are two people that have a lot of experience now from two different aspects. And what I'd love to get a sense of from these two as I bring them up here, let's bring up Braden and Celene. And if somebody was starting out in conversation design, you can take this question any way you like. What are the top level tips that you would give them to create an engaging voice experience? All right. So you can take that any way you like. What are those top level tips? If you were to tell someone you need to know these 1, 2, or 3 things, make an engaging experience, what would it be? Braden, you want to start us off?
Celine's the pro. I'm just the tool maker.
Well, you got to have the tools too.
He makes a great engaging platform so I can make an engaging experience. I would say that is definitely true.
So you can talk at it from that way. Okay, go ahead, Celene. Then we'll let Braden finish off.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. And do you mean, the experience is a very broad word, right? So, but I'm thinking across all the experiences we make, I think it comes down to accessibility is one, right? You want to make sure you don't have to dig for it. You don't have to find for it. It's easily accessible, but not too accessible, right? Because that creeps people out too. So just the level of accessibility, I think, is important. The I guess ability, it it talks to you. So for example, if we're talking about conversation, right? So conversation platforms, it needs to have a very natural flow, needs to not be complicated, not be overwhelming with information, not be too succinct either. So I think there's the balance of how we ask for questions and how we structure the information and how, basically how natural it seems, right? If it's a very natural process, people are going to engage with it more. If it's cumbersome or, even one error can just throw people in the wrong direction. So then I guess the last is about how we repair those things, right? So the conversation will naturally get off track. It happens with humans all the time. So it's just about making the repairs then as graceful as possible. If you're talking about seamlessly escalating to an agent, for example, or if you're talking about, providing some other method of support or help or anything like that, I think would be important to, maybe I'll cheat. I'll say one more, 4 is personalization. So it has to be with these platforms today, it has to be personalized. I'm not going to want to come and expect, it to just give me some flat answer, because generally I've probably found that flat answer before. I need you to know, like we're talking about, some context about me, especially if I'm authenticated and it knows who I am, if it's recognized my face, whatever. I want it to know me enough that it doesn't have to ask the silly questions. It knows me, to a degree. So those are, I'd say, my 4 top engaging strategies. Cool.
Braden, over to you. Or how do you create tools, or how do you create those engaging experiences?
Yeah, it's funny, as probably the number one thing we think about at Voiceflow now is documentation. So, conversation design is really the act of conversation documentation. Since you often have the conversation in your head, it's how do you share it with other people, right? And so we think a lot about, for example, like visibility layers is increasingly a topic that we debate internally, where how do you deliver the right amount of conversational context to the right stakeholder? Because often, if you have like by the way, I'm going to gauge my answer here based as Celene is a professional. I'm just going to see if she's head bobbing. I'm like,
no, that's not right.
I'm saying the right things, but no, like, when you work with like, a conversation design team that has maybe 10 designers and there might be sort of 30 peripheral stakeholders, the developers need different context than the executive stakeholders and other conversation designers and different than the copywriters. So you may have 4 different groups that all need different things, but it's all coming from the same conversation design artifact. And so it's a really tough challenge to split up the design in such a way where you're delivering the right amount of information, not too much, not too little, to the right folks. And so as a tool maker, that's something we think about a lot, is not just the design, but really it's the shareability, it's the collaboration, it's the documentation. So that's been a big focus for Voiceflow. And then of course there's bridging the gap between design and development in terms of iterating, being able to prototype faster, user test. Because today, if you're using like a traditional flowcharting tool, it's hard to go from design to development and have really no user testing in the middle if you have no ability to prototype and do unmoderated testing and things like that. So trying to bridge that gap, make that really easy to prototype and user test, and then at the end, try to make it a shareable artifact that can be useful for multiple stakeholders. So that's at the the enterprise being like 5 conversation designers or more, because that's a pretty big conversation design team. We're still fairly early in the industry, but that's kind of what we think about.
Awesome. Great. All right. Well, wonderful. Thank you. And we beat the buzzer here on the last question. So excellent. There it is. You saw that, Braden, a little swish there. And look at this. Three people in Canada up on screen. Not that I planned that or anything.
Oh, yeah, you're biased, I think.
I want to thank everybody for being part of this. Before we sign off here, thank you, Braden. Thank you, Celene, for the answers here. I've got a couple of quick housekeeping things before we head over to the augmented reality party. So I'm going to say goodbye to the 2 of you here just for a moment. Thank you again. And I want to, as I always do, set up the next episode of The Voice Stand. This is a special one. It's a little different, excuse me, in that, as you may know, Project Voice X is happening October 25th to 27th. And the next episode of The Voice Stand is actually going to be 1 week before then, October 20th. And so I was speaking with Bradley Metrock, who puts on the event. And what we decided to do is to partner on this and create a Project Voice X preview edition of The Voice Stand, where we're going to be featuring people that are going to be then featured at Project Voice X. So with that said, here's a little intro video to the Project Voice X edition of the Voice Stand, which you'll be able to participate in October 20th. So here it is. All right, so there you go. Fantastic lineup. Those are some of the people that are going to be featured at Project Voice X. If you're going to be there, you'll get to see them and hear them in person, of course. And it'll be a lot of fun. And we will have them here on the Voice Stand October 20th. You can, as of right now, you can save your seat by clicking on the button there for Voice Stand 18. And last but not least, we are going to be heading over to the augmented reality version of the Voice Stand where we can be immersed in the audio. Super excited to have you over there. If you haven't been part of it, it's a lot of fun. The link for that is thevoiceden.live. And just before we sign off, again, I want to give a huge thank you to our Voicefluencers, all 5 of you, Jim, Celene, Braden, Oita, T. Thank you so much. So great to chat with you and sharing some of your time and your expertise with everybody. Thank you to our sponsors, Amazon Alexa, Google, as well as our partners, Spatial Web, Audio Brain, and Attention Live. It's been a real pleasure. And I will see you all October 20th, Voice Stand 18, and over in the augmented reality after party at thevoiceden.live. Let me put that link in the chat for all of you. And we will see you there. I'm going to sign off with some credits and see you shortly. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in and for being part of the show. Talk to you soon.